Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my reactions to my predictions for the Premier League season at the beginning of the year. I thought I was going to get so many of these predictions right, but honestly, not a spoiler, I got so many wrong. However, before I go in this video and give my reaction to these predictions, I just want to say what an amazing season we just saw on display in terms of the Premier League. We saw not only the relegation fight, not only the top 4 battle, but even the Premier League title race get decided on a last day fixture. However, before going into this video and give my reactions to my predictions in terms of the beginning of the season, you know what I'm going to say. Make sure you guys like, comment, and hit that big subscribe button right there, because only 10% of you guys are actually subscribed. And let me know in the comment section, how well do you think I done in terms of my predictions? So the first set of predictions I had was Watford finishing 20th and Norwich finishing 19th. And I don't care, I feel like I got these predictions right. I know it was the other way around, but come on. It doesn't matter if you finish 20th or 19th, you're still getting relegated. So what difference does this actually make? And honestly, I'm not going to take full credit when it comes to these predictions, because we know that these two sides are yo-yo clubs. 1 minute in the Premier League, next minute they're in the Championship. Both owners don't really invest in their side, and they're very flawed in terms of the way they run their clubs. We got Norwich, honestly, who obviously had Daniel Farke at the beginning of the season, but we saw in previous years, he's just not the right man when it comes to Norwich. When they come into the Premier League, it's just a different level. We saw the owners eager to sell Bendia, but they weren't really able to bring efficient reinforcements in the summer. And we know all around when it comes to Norwich, they just do not have enough goals in their side, and we saw that throughout the season. So I was right in that department. However, when it comes to Watford, I was right as well. We know Watford's nature. We know how they run their club. As soon as they get a few bad results, they just sack the manager. They have 3 managers this season, which brings chaos, no stability, and it confuses the players because they have to keep adjusting and adapting to a new style of play when it comes to a new, different manager. So the next prediction I had, finishing in the relegation zone, was Crystal Palace in 18th position. And I hold my hands up. I was so wrong. I can't believe I made this prediction. However, at the beginning of the season, so many pundits, so many fans had them going down as well, not surviving the drop. Vieira, a manager who lacks real Premier League experience when it comes to coaching. How on earth do you feel like he was going to adjust and adapt Roy Hudson's squad when we know they're completely installed in their style of play when it comes to defensive, mundane football, but efficient? How is he going to transform that boring style of football to more expansive, play on the front foot? And we saw the last time Crystal Palace done something like this and took a risk. Frank de Boer was manager, and he became the worst manager in Premier League history, I think, losing 6 of his first 6 games. So I thought it was going to be a repetition. I thought it was going to be a replication. However, I was so wrong. Patrick Vieira done a magnificent job, a phenomenal job. The way he was able to coach these young individuals and improve their style of play. We saw players like Mitchell, players like Gallagher, players like Elise, young, hungry Englishmen with great youthful energy and talent, really prosper in Vieira's system, and they had so much joy throughout the season. So next team I had finishing 17th for Southampton, and honestly, I don't feel like I could got it that much wrong because they finished 15th. But I feel like my analysis wasn't really wrong, because I felt like Danny Ings was going to be a massive miss, because we know the season before he was responsible for like 35 to 40% of Southampton goals. How was Southampton going to replace this? It was going to be a massive burden to share the responsibility across the squad. However, players like Broja, the Chelsea guy on loan to Southampton, actually proved himself, stepped up, showed that he could finish, showing that he had a good all-round play, showing that he can run in behind with his pace and power and strength. I remember the game against Manchester United at Old Trafford. I felt like he had a standout game. He was one of the best players on the pitch, and he gave players like Maguire the runaround. I feel like Southampton did have enough to survive due to their Premier League experience, and they had Premier League proven players. I didn't feel like someone like Vestergaard was going to be a massive miss, but I felt like they showed that up with their good centre-backs in their squad as well. So honestly, I'm not going to blame myself that much for getting a prediction like this wrong when I was only 2 spaces off. They had a great run in the middle of the season, beating teams like West Ham away from home, Tottenham away from home, even drawing to Manchester City home and away. So the next team I had finishing 16th was Brentford, and I'm not going to beat myself up about this either. I feel like I would have been proven right if Eriksen didn't join that side. I feel like he reinitiated that spark in that side. He was literally the one creating the chances, getting other players involved in play, because before that we saw Brentford go for a stale phase of play, not really getting that many wins, accumulating that many points in a row. And I feel like Eriksen was their saving grace in terms of Premier League survival. I felt like Brentford were going to do well because of their home fans, because it was such a monumentous moment in their club's history. history, not being promoted since 1942 in the big time. So I felt like the fans, the players, they were having the appetite in terms of proving themselves on the biggest stage in English football. And that's why I felt like when they were playing good teams at home, they stood up against certain oppositions, against teams like Chelsea, Man City, although only losing by 1 goal, and even getting results against Liverpool, getting results against Tottenham, even beating Arsenal 3-0. So honestly, I'm not really surprised at this. I know a lot of pundits, a lot of people had Brentford getting relegated because of the lack of investment and the lack of Premier League experience in their squad. However, I feel like Ivan Toney was going to play a massive role in their season, because we know if you want Premier League survival, you need a guy who's going to be able to accumulate up to 12 to 15 goals in a Premier League season. And that's what Ivan Toney did. So the next team I had was Newcastle, finishing 15th. And you know what? I know I'm sounding deluded, but I'm not going to beat myself up about this prediction as well. Whoever predicted Newcastle to finish 11th is a liar, that they think a series of events which actually transpired through the season was going to actually happen. So you're telling me that you predicted new owners to take over, you predicted Steve Bruce to get sacked, you predicted Trippier to leave an established champion in Spain of Atletico Madrid to join a relegation dogfight, you predicted Joe Linton to transform himself from a striker to a midfielder. You predicted all these things to happen to Newcastle to ensure that they were going to be nowhere near relegation. You are a liar and you know it. But for the predictors out there who thought Newcastle were going to be able to finish in 11th place, you were banking on a Mike Ashley, Steve Bruce partnership to ensure Premier League survival. And you know what? You were right. But in actual reality, we all know you were wrong. So the next team I had finishing 14th was Brighton. And you know what? I was wrong. They finished a lot higher. I believe they finished 9th in the Premier League table. A very, very good season for them. They've never finished in the top half of a Premier League season. However, I'm not going to beat myself too much up about this. I love saying that. But because a lot of people had Brighton being relegated, this is because the season prior, they were 16th in the Premier League table. A lot of people anti-Potter football thinking it was not sustainable across a series of games, because we know that it will be vulnerable in terms of conceding goals. And people were thinking this is going to happen, especially since Brighton lacked that clinical number 9 going into the season, because we know Maupay or Welbeck aren't up to scratch in terms of a Brighton player to accumulate 15 goals in a Premier League year. However, I can't lie, I was one of the people who believed in Graham Potter football. I thought like it was sustainable and I thought it was going to work. I believed in players like Basuma, who had another amazing season, proving that he should be joining a Premier League top 6 side in the next year or so. Cucurella was one of the silence on the season, the way he was bombing down that left-hand side, creating real chances, and even Trossard having real quality in the final third, winning them games they really shouldn't. So next team I had finishing 13th was Burnley, and you know what? That was wrong. It was hideous. It was atrocious. I got this so wrong. Burnley. So many fans and pundits actually had them finishing in the relegation zone. So I got no one else but me to blame. I trusted Sean Dyche. I trusted the core of Burnley. Players like Tarjewski, players like Ben Mee, players like Dwight O'Neill on the wing who had real creativity. I just feel like these players were Premier League proven, had the experience, knew how to deal with the tough times when they didn't accumulate the points or the results they wanted, compared to other teams which just got promoted who didn't have the Premier League experience to deal with that sort of stuff. However, I was horribly wrong. I was mistaken. Chris Wood got sold for another Chris Wood, who was just a foreigner in Weghurst, who delivered no real goals and had no real impact on that side. And that was their main issue throughout the whole season. They accumulated, the second least amount of goals in the Premier League out of 20 teams. So that's why they got relegated. They just weren't good enough in the final third. So the next team I had finishing 12th was Wolves. And I know it sounds like I'm making excuses, but you can't really blame me. I was only 2 spots off in terms of the Premier League finish. I felt like Wolves were nowhere near going to get relegated, although it was very risky sacking one of their most successful managers in the history, Nuno Santos. I just felt like they had the Premier League proven players who had real quality, players like Neves, players like Moutinho, players like Cody, just knew, just like Burnley, how to maneuver themselves across a Premier League season. No one really knew much about Bruno Lage in terms of the way he was going to play Premier League football. However, we saw it. They were playing a defensive sound brand of football where they made themselves so hard to beat, although cost them going forward. you know what they say. If you get a clean sheet, you're not going to lose the game. And that was literally the formula they stuck to, which got them to that 10th place position. So next team I had finishing 11th was West Ham. And I got this horribly wrong because they actually finished 7th. I feel like the reasons I gave were justifiable because they did have a thin squad. We know the board, the members, they didn't really want to invest in the squad and didn't really have that much strength in depth to deal with the hardships of a European competition. You like the Europa, players like Declan Rice, players like Souček, players like Antonio, Bowen, they would have been run into the ground and they wouldn't be able to showcase the quality on a consistent basis. Also, the fact that they had no fans last season and they had fans this season, I feel like it was not going to play in their hands because I just feel like a couple of poor results. I feel like the West Ham fans would have moaned and they would have been reactionary saying that we want them to play the West Ham way, and they would have fell out of love with David Moyes and wanted him gone. So how on earth did West Ham pull this off? And you know what? They did a successful job, and I have to credit David Moyes and the players. Bowen, one of 3 players in the Premier League to reach double-digit goals and double-digit assists. Declan Rice made a massive jump just on the tier below world class, the way he was able to literally lead that side in the midfield. So the next team I had finishing in the top 10 was Leeds, and I got this horribly wrong because they finished 18th. Another poor prediction. You know what? I didn't really factor in second season syndrome, which I've seen so many teams in the past have. I didn't really feel like this would affect Leeds because we know Bielsa demands so much from his players in terms of training and on the pitch, the way they press. And I feel like any room of complacency would have been left in the summer of the holiday would have went to. And even the fans returning their first full season in the Premier League since God knows when, I just felt like they would have just provided the emotional energy for the Leeds players to feed off. However, obviously it was a very, very poor season. And you know what? I don't know what to blame. Injuries, because we saw Leeds' spine literally get crushed throughout the season. Players like Liam Cooper, Calvin Phillips, and even Bamford missed large portions throughout the Premier League season. But so many teams do deal with this. And you know what it is? When it comes to Bielsa's arrogance and his one-minded attitude when it comes to his pressing style of football, it really costed Leeds. Because if you remove their spine, it's literally going to decrease their quality when it comes to their pressing style of football. Because it's so demanding, it's so taxing on the body. You need your best players, your fittest players, the most experienced senior players who know how to perform this style of football. If they're missing, you're going to see the decrease and the decline of their style of play. And we saw it in large portions of so many games where they got battered 5 by City or something, 5 by Liverpool. So the next team I had finishing 9th was Aston Villa. And I got this wrong as well. I got this really wrong. I felt like Dean Smith was going to be the right man for the job because we know that the fans and him, they have a massive connection between each other. And I felt like the board was going to give him more time even if they had a dip of form. However, just in terms of the investment, we knew the board weren't going to give him time because they signed quality players like Buendia and Ings. And when you sign players of this ilk, they better hit the ground running, otherwise the manager was going to get the blame, and that's why he got sacked. Obviously, Steven Gerrard took the reins and he delivered them to safety because they were in and around the relegation zone when he took the job. It's quite funny that so many fans and so many pundits were looking forward to the players they did sign. There are a lot of pundits and people didn't really focus on the players that they didn't sign. Players who have been into that system, been into that core, ingrained in that team. Players like McGinn, Jacob Ramsey obviously having a breakout season. Those two players there, those two games, they really complement each other very well. And Watkins, although didn't really have a good season in terms of the beginning and the middle, he did pick up near the end of it. So the next team I had finishing 8th was Tottenham. Wrong. They finished 4th. I got this horribly wrong. But you know what? I'm going to give myself the benefit of the doubt and I'm going to give myself the excuse. If you told me that Tottenham were going to get Antonio Conte some point of a Premier League season, of course they were going to finish 4th because he's a world-class manager. However, they started off with Nuno Santos, who I just didn't think was the man for Tottenham. He didn't have the stature as the manager, and the Tottenham fans didn't really buy into his style of play. Also, the way Harry Kane started off his season casted a black cloud when it comes to Tottenham FC because he didn't perform up to scratch, and there was so much uncertainty in terms of if he was going to stay at the club or go to Manchester City. How could I not predict Spurs to finish in 8th place? But well done for Tottenham Hotspur, well done to them. Players like Harry Kane really stepped up in the latter half of the season, showcasing his world-class nature like he did last season. Obviously, Son was absolutely sensational, made himself into the team of the season. Also winning the Golden Boot, good for him. But I just feel like the way Conte was able to improve players where you would think, how on earth are they still playing for a top 6 club? Stuff like that should be really given credit. Players like Davies, players like Dyer, and that's part of the reason why they finished 4th, because Kane, Son, those two as a partnership isn't enough to deliver you a top 4 berth, because we saw the season before, Mourinho wasn't able to do this even though Kane won the Golden Boot and the playmaking award, and Son scored so many goals. So the next team I had finishing 7th was Arsenal, and I was wrong. Tottenham finished above Arsenal, but in terms of Arsenal's positioning, they finished 5th and I had them finishing 7th. And you know what? My analysis, I looked back at my video, was quite right. I felt like there was struggle since they didn't really have a world-class striker to get the goals into the back of the net. I felt like Aubameyang would struggle because of his form last year. And I felt like there was considerable decline, even though Arsenal fans didn't want to consider this. I felt like this was going to cost Arsenal in terms of competing in the top 4 race. And it did, because they had to start someone like Nketiah, who did show great form, but near the end of the season, Arsenal in the middle of the season really did struggle in the Premier League to really build momentum competing against teams like Tottenham. I was wrong in terms of the defence. I didn't think Ben White was going to be a great signing, but he was a good signing. I'm not going to say great, a good signing. Him and Gabriel formed a good partnership, eliminating mistakes. However, overall, I felt like my analysis was right. I feel like Bukayo Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, although good, aspiring young players, were not going to be right for Arsenal to guide them to a top 4 berth. I just felt like they would have run out of gas. Psychologically, it would have been too taxing for them to deal with this much responsibility at such a young age, when you know the experienced players aren't really stepping up. I felt like they would have folded, and they did. So the next team I had finishing 6th was Everton, and yeah, this is probably my worst prediction, and so many other people's worst predictions. How on earth did I have them finishing 6th? They were nearly relegated for the first time in their history at Everton in the Premier League. I thought Rafa Benitez would have come and stabilised the club. I know he's had great success with Liverpool before, and there's always that rivalry, and there's always that uncertainty of trust between the Everton fans and Benitez. But we know when Benitez arrives at a club, he provides stability. Look at his time at Chelsea as interim boss. Look at his time at Newcastle. When it feels like there's so much chaos going around the club, on the pitch, he provides stability and continuity. I trusted Rafa Benitez more than Nuno Santos and more than Mikel Arteta. Obviously, Nuno Santos got sacked, but I just felt like Everton would finish higher than Arsenal because of the factor of Rafa Benitez. However, we know that they went winless for like 10 to 12 games. They didn't win a game between, September all the way to January, with Rafa Benitez at the helm, so obviously he deserved to be sacked. So yes, honestly, Everton had one of the worst seasons in their history as a club. Wow. So many players down tools, so many players didn't really perform, so many players should be leaving that club as soon as the Premier League transfer window opens. So next team I had finishing 5th was Leicester City, and yeah, I was wrong by 3 positions, and yeah, I was wrong. I'm not going to justify it, I'm not going to make excuses like before with other teams, but do you really blame me for me having them finishing 5th? Do you remember what Leicester City were? Back-to-back seasons they finished 5th. They won the FA Cup last year against Chelsea, the European champions. They won the Community Shield against Manchester City, the Premier League champions this season. They made shrewd, savvy business decisions, signing individuals who I thought like were going to hit the ground running. Players like Daka, a great replacement from Vardy, signing other players like Sakore in the midfield, providing stability and strength and power. I just felt like it was going to be a well-rounded team who were going to be able to go again in terms of the Champions League battles for the top 4 places. But I was wrong. Leicester did have a lot of injuries. Players like Fofana, who we know is one of the best young defenders in the Premier League, got injured very early. And we know that Leicester City missed it a lot. We know Evans missed large portions of the season as well. And we know those two had a great partnership when it comes to defensive stability. Also, Talisman kept looking around at other clubs saying, pick me up. I don't want to be here. I feel like I deserve more money. I feel like I deserve a better situation to put myself in when it comes to winning trophies. And Vardy was injured as well. But Leicester weren't able really to build momentum throughout any parts of the season. Throughout the majority of the season, they were actually in the bottom half. So yeah, Leicester City, I was wrong, but not by much, only 3 spots. So the team I had finishing 4th was Manchester United. And you know what? I was wrong. I overestimated their ability. I had them 4th and they finished 7th. But you know what? A lot of other pundits and fans were probably worse because I had so many fans saying that they're gonna win the league. Number 21 is coming, and we know that never happened. I knew that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was never the man to leave Manchester United to win their 21st Premier League title. I just didn't feel like as a team, as a unit, although their squad was good, they didn't play like a squad. They didn't play like a team. They didn't play like a starting 11. I felt like they were going to win enough games in terms of individual brilliance. We know players like playing in moments in their squad, players like Bruno Fernandes, players like Ronaldo, players like Pogba. They had enough world-class talent to win you games. However, it was a downhill spiral. It just never lived up to the expectations that so many fans had. And that squad is broken, like Gary Neville loves to say. It has so many deficiencies. It has so many problems. As soon as Ralph Rangnick was announced as Manchester United manager, I just knew it was the end of the season and that they were going to finish nowhere near of the top 4 race. They down-tooled. They knew that Ralph Rangnick was essentially, let's be honest, a supply teacher. Knowing that he's going to be gone throughout the summer, you're not going to be playing for a starting position because you know that there's going to be another manager who's going to give you another chance. So yeah, throughout the season, they were pathetic, abysmal. So in terms of the top 3, I'm going to do these 3 together. So I had Chelsea finishing 3rd. Where did they finish? 3rd. I had Liverpool finishing 2nd. Where did they finish? 2nd. I had Manchester City finishing 1st. They finished 1st. So I got all the top 3 predictions right. And I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. Well done, well done, well done. Because you know what? So many fans, so many pundits got carried away trying to unite other teams as title winners like Chelsea and Manchester United. Well, that always knew was never going to come into fruition. I felt like Chelsea's had so many problems going into the season if they wanted to win the big trophy. The first problem was Romelu Lukaku. I feel like he wasn't going to be good enough to be Chelsea's main man to win them the league. People were telling me, trying to convince me he polished his game. He had good hold-up play. However, he did not live up to expectations. People as well trying to convince me that a 3-at-the-back system was going to be good enough to get Chelsea the Premier League trophy. However, like I said at the beginning of the season, only one team in Premier League history has won the Premier League trophy with a 3 at the back, and that was Antonio Conte. So it is rare. It almost never happens. Just in terms of the numerical advantage, in terms of having enough players in the final third, it just puts you at a disadvantage. And that's why I felt like it was going to cost Chelsea and it was going to make them accumulate a lot of 1-1 draws. And it did. I know there's going to be a lot of Chelsea fans making excuses why they didn't compete for the league. Oh, a new owner had to come in. There was so much uncertainty around the club. Oh, Lukaku's comments about Inter Milan. Oh, there were so many injuries around the squad in terms of the wing-back positions of Reece James and Ben Chilwell. Well, okay, let's say that the injuries didn't exist and let's say Lukaku did fire in goals. Did you honestly think that Chelsea were going to accumulate 90 points in a Premier League season? Let me give them 12 points. They finished on what, like 84, 85 points, and Liverpool finished on 90 and Manchester City on 91. So Chelsea were never going to win the league. Come on, guys, fix up. So the first 2 positions I had right, obviously Liverpool and Manchester City, the teams who have great strength in depth. Both teams have world-class players. We know defensively they're sound, the 2 best defensive records in the Premier League. And we know going forward, they have enough goals, although they do it in different ways, but do have the natural goal-scoring ability in the squad to accumulate enough goals to win a league. I feel like the difference was, although there was not much, was going to be that Manchester City had greater strength in depth. And I just felt like Manchester City were going to be able to hold their nerve in a title race because they've done it before in their history. They've won it on the final day, in 2012, in 2014, and 2019. So why couldn't they do it again in 2022? I did say it was going to go tough. I felt like Liverpool were going to push them all the way, but it was just going to be a repeat of 2019. Manchester City, well-deserved winners of the Premier League. We know Bernardo Silva pushed them at the beginning of the season. Kevin De Bruyne pushed them at the end. Honestly, although Jack Grealish didn't live up to expectations, they just have so many great players who are just going to perform well in certain moments of the season when other players are underperforming.